Well, hello everyone. This is Niko Dangon, your host today. I am going to be interviewing Johnny Akzam, who is running for Congress in Minnesota's first district. So, thank you for joining us, Johnny. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you? Long time no see.
Yes. So let's get started. In the first couple minutes, 1 to 5 minutes, you're going to be able to introduce yourself, who you are as a person, and what makes you a progressive. That's really what I'm interested in. What does it mean for you to be a progressive?
Okay, that's an easy answer. Throwing
I
me
mean,
softballs.
yeah, we're starting just easy. How you doing?
All right. Well, like you said, I'm running for the first congressional district in Minnesota. That's not the cities, everyone. That is down south. It's the southmost region. It includes Rochester, which is where the Mayo Clinic is. If you know about the Mayo Clinic, it's kind of world famous. It also has Mankato, Austin, Albert Lee, Winona are some of the bigger towns. There's colleges in those towns mainly. So, it's a pretty widespread district, and it's actually very diverse from the metropolitan type areas, like I just mentioned, to the very rural areas, very small towns, ranging from anywhere from 250 people to a couple thousand, and they're kind of based on farm industry and stuff like that. So it's definitely an interesting district, but what's common is what I love about Minnesota and why I chose Minnesota after many years of living in all kinds of different states. I tell people, I may not have been born here, but I was smart enough to stay here when I got here.
So,
So,
what was it really that it attracted you to Minnesota?
well, just the people, I have this corny saying, and I admit it's corny, but I really mean it because when you get to know me, you know that I'm sincere about this kind of stuff. Is that it might be cold up here for a California boy. I used to live in California. It might be cold up here and the winters really suck, but the people are warm. And it is true. Um, Minnesota nice has a few different meanings for a few different people. But for the most part, it just means people like to see other people happy. And I think that's where the progressive values come from because really, when you're nice, you want to see your neighbor happy. You want to see the people around you doing well. And you don't like
And
to
you're
see
an
people
entrepreneur, right?
struggling. What's that?
You're an entrepreneur, correct?
That's right. Yep. I started
So,
uh,
how's
I
that in
started my
Minnesota?
business. I started my first business here in Rochester, Minnesota, as a contractor, general contractor. A house. I could build a house, but I was attracted to remodeling because again, it's about fixing things, going into people's homes, helping them renovate it and change it into something that they wanted or adding on to their home. I just kind of loved it. And I started that in 2007. And then all of a sudden, what happened in 2008? The housing market, bam. Nobody told me that was going to happen. And nobody bailed us out when it happened. I was actually buying a ranch with a girlfriend of mine. And the whole time, man, it just made being a new startup company really difficult. And we were really doing good because we did good work. So as far as picking ourselves up from our bootstraps, I did that every day. But when the jobs started thinning out because all the guys got laid off from the housing new building market,
Mhm.
well, what happened? They went home with their tool belts and they started picking up side work. And my calls went down. I couldn't keep anybody employed, and my personal jobs started becoming a gig economy. I was going from job to job to job rather than having a flourishing, profiting business. So that prompted me to start my online business where I started building websites, basic same concept, right? Helping local businesses get their online presence together, including social media, websites. That's kind of what I do. And I branched off from there. There's all kinds of different avenues you can go. So I partnered with one of my clients to build software that renders. not to bore you, but it just renders property information for realtors to put on their website so they can advertise what properties they have for their clients.
Okay, so
And it's widespread.
Like you got real estate on you, you got IT,
yeah, well, and the thing is, through my online business, I started just working like sometimes 24 hours straight, sitting in my recliner with a laptop, just and building websites for people with real low money. And finally, my first year, I only made 16,000. And the second year I made 64,000. And the third year I made 120,000. And then all of a sudden the market started shifting and all these new pop-ups from Silicon Valley, here we go again. They started popping up and they started consolidating online workers, things like Upwork, Freelancer. And now there's nothing wrong with the competition, but what does that do to a macro economy? In a macro economy, I can't live on $5 an hour.
It kills the macro economy because it's bringing all the jobs from somewhere else.
I can't survive in the United States on $5 an hour, even if I work 20 hours a day. I just can't do it. So it made that industry started falling off. That's why we started the software, because it's a software as a service. Once they buy the service and they're paying for the service, they need it. And it gives us a more stable monthly revenue to work off of so we can pay our bills, because that's all this is about. None of us are rich. We're not Silicon Valley developers. Those guys can take $1-2 million and throw it into advertising, and everybody's playing Clash of the Clans for 99 cents here and 99 cents there. And before you know it, when 1 million people are doing that every day, they're making $1 million, or a month, they're making $1 million a month off of an investment that we don't have the ground floor, and you don't have the ground floor. And this other person, I've been involved in all these multi-million-dollar programs, right? The ones you pay $2,000 to be a part of, and they teach you how to start a business online, but they leave out a very key piece of the information, and that is the capital that the other people have.
Yeah, of course. But okay, so we're running out of time with the introduction.
Okay.
So
you keep me on agenda.
Yeah, no, you're good. So basically, from what I understand, is that for you to be a progressive really means to take on what is being done that is good, and like adding on to it, which is basically.
Well, I'll tell you my definition. Yeah, I will tell you my definition of a progressive. A progressive is somebody, because I learned this in all of my jobs, my businesses, is what I do is we seek out the very best possible solution to improve the lives of the general populace.
That sounds good.
That's it. That's what because that's progress, right? We do it with it with our updates for software. We're trying to better them, fix the bugs. Go ahead. Yeah, go.
No, I mean now you're doing it with the government, right? The Congress is definitely not working. Right. Now let's make it work. Okay, so talking about the first thing, what do you think is either the most important to your constituents or the most urgent issue in your district? So first district of Minnesota, for everyone who didn't watch the beginning.
It's pretty simple. Again, you're throwing me softballs. It's jobs. It really is. It's because and you might have seen, you follow me around online, you see I'm really pushing the federal jobs guarantee. We're getting ready to see a report come out from the Levy Institute in conjunction with the Sanders Institute, from some of the top economists that led Bernie's campaign, Stephanie Kelton, Randall Wray, Pavlina. I won't try her last name because I know I'll screw it up. But the very, very top economists, and this is not pipe dream stuff, they're taking and pulling together a report of information that proves this program works. And really, it's the federal jobs guarantee. The federal jobs guarantee provides funding on a federal level to community level jobs where you can basically
type of thing, right?
Create any system, any job you want. It's all created on the local level. So a community comes together and says, you know what, we have a problem with youth crime. for instance. Let's take a problem that we have and we want to solve it in our community. Well, we don't have the resources. Most of the time, the reason you don't have the resources, it boils down to human resources because you don't have the money to pay. Well, these aren't government jobs. People want to call them government jobs. Oh, I mean, I don't want to be a communist working for the government. No, that's not what it is. We still have government sector jobs. We still have private sector jobs. And we have the Jobs Guarantee Program. And all the Jobs Guarantee Program is a program that creates employment through local community needs. So we want to get rid of the kids running around on the streets with nothing to do. We can't tackle education specifically with the jobs program, but what we can do is we can create a task force or a community center where the people, we hire the staff that it needs in order to take care of that.
And you could technically also, for example, in this place that you're talking about, you could have, for example, like a lounge room where kids can come do their homework, and then you can even hire some of the kids, maybe like, I was actually working on something like
yes, you're taking the micro idea and running with it.
Exactly.
Because guess what? It's an open check. Why is it an open check? Because the government is responsible for making sure the states and local municipalities have the resource capital to run and function what they need in their society to be successful. That's all our job is. And to make sure that none of those state and local municipalities violate the rights of every human, the equal rights of every human.
And this is a program that is already in place that you would take advantage of, or is something that you want to pass?
Well, there might be some local communities that have tried it, but the problem is you can't run a program like this from a local or state level because state and local governments have finite resources. They can't actually run debt. The United States government can't run a debt, but that's another conversation we'll have some maybe later. But the point is we, as a federal government, have an infinite supply of capital to put into the system. The only thing that scares us from doing that is inflation, get away, the debt, and all the scary things they say. But in reality, we just spent $1.5 trillion or $1.1 trillion on the military, and nobody asked how are my taxes going to get raised?
Yeah.
Nobody asked. They said, we just cut taxes. How does it work? If taxes fund the federal government, then we just cut taxes and we just spent a bunch of $1 trillion. What just happened? See, it's all a farce. We have to spend first before we can tax. That's the bottom line.
Personal opinion, I think the entire Federal Reserve is like a scam. But yeah, that's different.
Well, you know, one of the things you brought up to me about the relationship with some of the dark players, I won't deny there are people manipulating, but let me explain what the only job of the Federal Reserve is to take the appropriations bill and follow it. And what that is supposed to do is tell them to credit the accounts at the Treasury with the funds that we've allocated in the appropriations bill in those areas. So the federal jobs guarantee, the Social Security, Medicare, those are all separate funds that we project that are going to need this amount, that amount, and this amount, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all we do is we tell the Fed to credit those accounts. That's what the Fed is supposed to do. Now, what they do with their relationship with the banks and paying interest and maybe, you know, rubbing elbows here and rubbing elbows there has absolutely nothing to do with public policy. Okay. All we have to do, every congressperson running for Congress right now who wants to get in office and actually enact change needs to understand this. When we talk about an appropriations bill, we are writing to the Fed an order to credit the accounts of the Treasury across the board for the things that we tell it to, whether it's military or whatever. The Fed does not then go to the public and start collecting taxes to fund that spending bill. They push keys and they fund those accounts like that. It happens just like that. They don't start knocking on your door and asking for tax money in order to pay for all this stuff.
All right,
that's the first step.
Let's go back 1 second to jobs, and I wanted to take advantage of this time for also talking about how important it is for example, if you're talking about the importance of jobs in your district, which is actually a great thing for progressives, because that is something that can actually new jobs. Like, for example, if you're able to talk to people that are inside, for example, businesses that have anything to do with solar energy or clean energy in general, which has two great benefits. One, if you bring that type of company to your district, you're able to first bring jobs to your people first, and then second, you actually bring down the price of energy.
I want to stop you. I want to stop you right there. Okay. Because I need to make something clear again with all candidates out there. It is not my job to bring anything back to my district. It is no congressperson's job to go bring anything back to their district. We are not state legislators. States, they compete for resources between themselves to run the surpluses and deficits among the capital that we release. It's the job of the federal government only to make sure that the states have the resources to do what's on a local level. And for Congress people and senators to run on the fact they're going to lobby Washington and all of their colleagues to give them some sort of favor back home is disingenuous and irresponsible. I am not going to go up and ask 434 people to do a bunch of good stuff just for Minnesota. I'm going to go up there and work with them to talk about how can we create jobs in everybody's district, and how can we create an atmosphere where your state can have the resources to create all of these clean energy jobs that are going to be passed in the clean energy bill, right? Because we're not going to work against each other, but the reason is I've been thinking about that a lot, because I actually did a video on that where people are like, well, what are you going to do about this problem in Minnesota and this? And I have to correct them and say, listen, you're asking me to address a problem that's a state legislated issue or a governor's issue. You need to rally against them. Let's not get confused on the levels, because then what happens is, as constituents, as a voter, I still am a voter. In my businesses, I've never forgot I'm the customer too. That's what's made me successful in those. I'm always the customer as well as the server. And we can't forget that we have to keep our responsibility to our legislators within their own scope. So if we're asking a congressman to come do favors for their state and district when we're supposed to be overseeing human rights and providing resources, that's what the federal government, everybody wants to get the feds out of this, feds out of that. Well, that's right. We shouldn't have the feds overseeing everything. Why is marijuana illegal? Why can't the states figure out what they want to do on their own? Except when we start seeing problems of really serious social injustice, like with all of our Black brothers and sisters being shot by cops. That is not a local issue. That is absolutely an opposite of a local issue, like Sarah Sanders said.
What can you do then in Congress, or what are you planning on doing to address that issue specifically?
Okay, well, first of all, part of that, if we want to talk about the shootings and the murders, primarily by white police officers against Black young men.
Primarily, but not only. I was actually just watching a video that was released. It was published in the New York Times, and the guy that they killed was white. So it's not only. Was it the guy?
Was it the guy?
Yeah, the guy that was
hands up. Yeah,
this.
And he was begging for his life.
Yeah,
he was begging for his life, and he got
so a little bit.
What's kind of happened with the youth movement after the shooting in Parkland, and I want you to understand how I frame that. Okay, the youth movement with what happened out of Parkland is that they were able to welcome in and consolidate with the young people of Baltimore, for instance, and Chicago, who suffer at this every day and aren't getting the recognition. And I'm proud of the way they came together. I watched a lot of interviews of the children themselves, the kids themselves, talking about how they felt. In Baltimore, those kids felt ignored for so long, and they felt, well, why weren't you guys marching then? Why wasn't this such a big deal? But then we started thinking, it is now So we need to take advantage of it. That is maturity. That is like,
yeah.
Boom. And I mean, I almost want to cry over that because that's our future. My son is 17 and that's his generation. And I'm very proud. Now I know that the establishment is trying to co-opt like they always do. Everybody wants to make a buck on something and it's wrong. But that doesn't take away from the kids themselves that are sitting there in their bedrooms, in their living rooms, and texting back and forth and organizing these things and bringing the passions about this. So I think when we talk about addressing that type of issue, we go about it the same way, where as allies, we stop comparing and we start identifying, because that's what we keep doing. We compare, well, you know, white people have it bad too. Yeah, no shit. We all got it bad a little bit, but that's not what we're talking about. Black lives matter because they haven't mattered in this country for over 400 years, and all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. Get it? And if you don't, then sit in the background and sit down and we'll explain it to you and just be a quiet ally. But don't work against us.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's something that needs to be done.
So what exactly, like what kind of policy would you, or what kind of legislation would you be able to have?
I don't know. We got to, but honestly, I'm not going to say I know that. I would listen because there's people that have been dealing with this.
That you are willing to, like, that we have congressmen and women that are willing to calm down. Actually, like, how rare is that? Like, it's right. That's surprising, right? That it's kind of a favor asking congressmen and women to come down, do town halls, and actually listen to their people instead of only the special interests that put them there in the first place. Which is what I like about you, that you're different.
Well, thank you. And part of it when it comes to because here in Rochester, for instance, I mean, we have some of our issues, but our police force, it's got its issues, but it's not one of those where you have to be like that. And some of the leaders of the local Black Lives Matter, Rochester for Justice, have expressed that it's a pretty good model, even though it can be improved upon, and we do have areas in the school district and things we can fix. So I would look at some of the models that are out there already that are being successful and ask those people to lead them. But we also need to listen to the leaders that have been suffering through this and already know the answers, perhaps, and just start implementing them. You got to hit the police forces, man. These guys that are getting these badges, you got to take them away. You got to get them some training and find out if they're just somebody that wants to go shoot shit up. They don't belong in a police force. Yeah, they belong in a military. And they don't even belong in a military, if you want to be honest with me, because I don't think our military should be full of people to go shoot shit up. They should be trying to keep peace and draw escalation down, rather than some of the videos we've seen of people going over there and just mowing people down for sport. Yeah, it's a mentality that's sick.
Just for fun.
That's right. It's sick. And I believe that's what's happening in our police force. Some of it may be some of those guys coming back. One of the things, I don't have anything against military people who've served and put their time in an honorable way. That didn't do it for those reasons, that they want to go shoot shit up. Because I know that's not the whole military. And I know that it's only a select few, just like not all cops are bad cops. We know that. And that's what we have to focus on. But we can't let these guys have the power and weaponry. And then the first thing we got to do is we got to take the incentive away. If I kill somebody, I get a paid vacation.
Yeah.
What the hell is that all about?
Yeah, that's one of the main problems, that they basically get a paid leave.
No. First of all, gun and badge on the table. If there's an accident, and this video that just came out about Alton, who am I talking about? Alton, down in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. The big guy.
Sterling. Alton Sterling.
Exactly, but he was just like outside of a gas station selling CDs. If anything,
the way he came up to him, instigating, of course I would be scared. I mean, this guy, he was in his grill. No, we didn't see that in the earlier release of the tapes, remember? And so what they do is they confiscate the information and hide it from the public, and have a grand jury that says, oh, just let him go while he's on paid vacation. And then he gets let go, maybe because it's so controversial, they might say, you need to quit. Here's a, go away and be quiet. But he doesn't do any time, nothing like that. And then it just keeps escalating. And then by the time it calms down, while we're waiting for the next one to happen, then we get this information later on that shows the truth, and it's all forgot. That case, now we're on to Stephon Clark, and we're over here, and they just keep that cycle going. It's ridiculous, and it needs to end. And I don't have the answer, but I just know that I got to keep my outrage about it, and I got to keep talking about it, and I'll talk about it on the House floor every single day until something's done, because young people are dying, and it's okay. It's not okay, but they make it like it's okay.
Yes, because they're just so accustomed to it. They don't notice.
That's what the problem. The kids in the inner cities that were being interviewed on some of the shows that I was watching, they're like, yeah, this is every day.
Yeah.
We're getting shot at. One kid says, I mean, he's like 14, maybe 16, I think, in high school. And he's, he had a bow tie. He looked cute as hell. He's a good kid. And he's like, I go home, I just stay in the house. I don't even go outside because I'm afraid to get shot. That's his life. He lives in a war zone in his community where he goes to school to try to get whatever education he hopes will get him out of that war zone, but he's a prisoner in his own house. This is the communities that we allow to happen on our area. And look, I know that one of the solutions that can change this around is the jobs guarantee. I know that, because when you start taking people out of their poverty state and you start giving them wealth, and I mean, not wealth, but value, self-value, and you start giving them the wealth of just comfort so they aren't hungry, so they can have, get off of work after 8 hours, have a decent meal, sit down and play a video game, watch TV, and just relax. And people are happy. They don't necessarily need to be chasing Donald Trump dreams of having big high rises to be happy.
Just be comfortable, have
a
decent life that they can be.
And you have parents who are working 2 jobs. I was just at one of these community things the other night, and it was about discrimination and issues going on in school. And it was a task force that was agreed upon. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. I just see the thing. I don't see you anymore, but that's probably because you're not talking. But it's a task force that it's all volunteers, right? And it's because of the mistreatment of the kids in certain schools based on what they believe to be gender. I mean, not gender, but race, color, creed, discrimination of some sort. And it seems to be more rampant. It's that correlation. People of color are being, the kids of color are being disciplined at a higher rate, and this at a higher rate, and this at a higher rate. What is this attention? It's not because they're inherently somehow worse kids. So there's a problem of perception there. And so this task force, anyway, is been organized to look at that problem. And I was just sitting there listening to it, and one of the people there told about her kid, and she works 2 jobs. She's a single mother. And her kid is an A student, and he got in trouble for something so minor, like taking a piece of candy or something. And it blew up into this whole thing where he had to sit for 2 days in alternative school or something. And he would never been in trouble before. And I almost cried, dude. I'm telling you, I almost cried because this mother works 2 jobs. She first of all, let's start there. She shouldn't have to work 2 jobs because now she has more time to be with her son, who isn't a troubled kid. Again, this thing happened to a good kid, but maybe she could take some of her time and make sure that things like that got addressed. She wouldn't have to work 2 jobs and then take an hour out of her busy schedule to go get her, I mean, come on. Why are people having to volunteer to stand up for their rights after they're working 2 jobs? What kind of country is this that we live in where we allow that to happen? So the jobs guarantee kind of does lead us into a lot of solutions because first of all, that mom doesn't have to work 2 jobs. So she gets relief. She can start focusing on maybe something else. And it can help. If there is still that problem in the society where this task force is needed, instead of having people who volunteer, mind you, for like 5, 10 different things, they're involved in this, 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 because they're the people that are doing and going and organizing this stuff. And they're also working, they have full-time jobs, but they put in their volunteer time. Well, instead of having to string people out so that they don't get sleep and they can't be involved where it needs to be, they can focus on the things they really are good at and are passionate about. And you can hire staff and the people maybe that don't have jobs to be a part of these task force. And then immediately, we're talking, this is how you fix it immediately. You go through the communities and start creating task force delegated to fix each and every problem that you want to address in your community, and you start hiring people from the community. No, we're not talking about you go to the school and find their resume. No, you start picking people who you have an employment office, not an unemployment office where you go get a check for being unemployed, but an employment office where you go and you can take a series of assessments that's just to find out who you are. What are you good at? What do you like?
That's what I've always wondered. Like, why doesn't someone just grab all this? Like, there's at least 5% of people who are at least 5% who are unemployed. Why isn't there some?
That's what we're gonna do, man. That's it. The question is, why aren't we?
Exactly, and well, with you in Congress, we might.
That's right. Me and
actually, okay.
And I want to mention. Okay, I want to mention because you said me in Congress is that. Of course, I'm part of a huge network. There's 535 people in Congress, and a lot of them are, I'd say, 90% of them are up. There's a few of them that are staying that we're okay with, right? But 90% of them are up. So we have the 116th progressive congressional candidate group in Facebook, where we're all going to start collaborating, all of us that have the right message. Whether it doesn't matter, no party affiliation, no organization affiliation. We're crossing that bridge. It's done. If you are, I don't really care for Justice Democrats because of some things they did to some personal friends of mine, and it rubbed me the wrong way. I don't have a problem with those candidates. So I don't support the organization, but guess what? The organization is not the candidate. There are people in that organization I cannot wait to work with.
Wait. Actually, I'm interested. What happened with Justice Democrats with you?
Well, the whole thing with them kind of blackballing off on Seema Hernandez, and they propped up a candidate over David Hildebrand, who had been campaigning on our message. And instead of fighting progressives against progressives and doing backroom, because they picked a candidate that was part of the Wolfpack who had been working with TYT Network, because yeah, they're all separate companies. I get that. I own 3 companies too. I know how to have separate companies, but I'm still one person. So I know how, TYT is not affiliated with this. Yeah, you guys talk to each other. Chink is affiliated with all of them. So they pick somebody, and she's a great person, and she's highly qualified. And she's, but that is a DNC tactic to do something like that. And the reason they did it was because they want to support a woman, identity politics, because David Hildebrand's a white guy. Yeah. But you know what? I don't care. He's been putting the shoe leather in and talking to people. I met him at the People's Summit where I met you. I shook his hand. He was passing out his cards telling me he's going to take on Dianne Feinstein. And I'm from California, and I'm disappointed in her and Barbara Boxer and all that. And I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to check you out, boy. And from that point on, he was working, and I was following him on social media. He's doing the thing. And out of nowhere, Justice Democrats uses its ties with its email list from TYT Network to do, boom, $150,000 in 48 hours for this candidate. And he's been out there busting his hump. That's not right. That's exactly the kind of,
that's us fighting against each other. That's
right. And I don't appreciate that. However, Rick Trevino from Texas is an outstanding candidate. He's back, Justice Democrats, brand new Congress are one and the same, right? They have two banners, but they're actually Justice Democrats.
They're almost identical.
Yeah, well, they are. They're the same people. They're actually supposed to be merged by now. I talked to him about it, and they just haven't done it on the outside. They kept the names.
I don't think it can be fully possible because brand new Congress includes also Republicans, and there's like one or two. While Justice.
That's why. That's what I mean by. But as far as the company FEC reports, we're one organization. The outward has nothing to do with it. So anyway, he's endorsed by them. Great. I listened to him for an hour and a half, 2 hours talking to Joe Firestone or Savage Joy, and I'm ready to work with him in the 116th. Let's go. I envision, half of Congress being all these new people just coming in there gangbusters. Yo, what's up, baby? I saw you. Yeah. Finally shaking hands, because we know each other online or on phone. We've been talking to you. That's what the group is about. The group is about cross endorsements. That's about cross endorsements. It's about getting to know each other now and talking to each other, not just doing arbitrary social media endorsements. No, we should have at least an hour conversation if I'm going to endorse you online. And I'm going to use my skills to teach them how to properly endorse to get the most engagement across all of our social media networks and our websites. Well, the other part of that is, and you get up into New England area where there's 4 states in a 10-mile radius because they're so small. I know I'm exaggerating, but they can get together and have, their own rallies together to help support each other on topics. Have a topical forum or a topical rally where 2 or 3 candidates, maybe senatorial candidates from different states, come together and have, something that might be locally a local issue.
Like that's actually something that I with a friend in college. Actually, I was talking about today. We were thinking about
great minds,
a progressive Florida caucus, and actually invite people to our university. And this is something that's in the long run. And don't take my words for a fact yet, but
it's a concept.
We need to do these type of things to bring awareness about progressive candidates, which actually brings me to the last thing I wanted to tell you because we're running out of time. But I think this is extremely important, and I know that you're one of the good ones, so you will be willing to talk about this. So talking about actually. Because as progressives, we face 2 enemies. One is facing us directly, unapologetically, and I actually respect that more. And that's the Republicans, right? They are actually.
I tell people, right? They come right at you. They stab you right in the chest.
They're not. They're open about.
Tell you, hey, guess what? I'm going to screw you. I'm going to screw you if I have the chance. Okay.
Exactly. Right.
All right.
But
I'm gonna do it with a smile, like, yeah,
right. But then there's the corporate Democrat, and that is the one that smiles at you, agrees with you, tells you you're the best, and then goes and does the opposite in the backroom, in the back rooms. So, talking about how to be successful, how do you deal with this? Like, for example,
once we get up there or in our campaign.
The other day, when I made that comment about George Soros and how that blew up, right? So what do you think about, what do you make of that? Like how George Soros is also a multi-billionaire investor, an oligarch who, of course, obviously, we are calling out the Koch brothers and so many others in the Republican side.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We have to call the ones on our side. So I don't think we have to. We cannot just ignore that and just pretend.
No. Okay, so how do we fight the like you said, the Republicans come at us with the knife out, and we can. I see you coming, right? But the Democrats, they go, oh man, I'm on your side. Next thing you know, it's Caesar, A2 Brute. Well, if you're talking about when we're up there, not like running for office, because we're nothing we can do to fight the big money other than canvas and do what you're doing and getting our message out, right? And the voters fight big money by not voting for big money. That's how we fight big money in the election, cycle. But when we get up there, how does this new group of progressives that some made their way through, some didn't, they're still going to fight. How do we get them to get on board with the federal jobs guarantee and Medicare for all? Well, obviously we're already working together to gain our alliances. So when we see each other, we're gonna be like right on track. We probably are already gonna have a bill for the federal jobs guarantee from Bernie after the report comes out. I believe that's where he's headed. I think he's gonna be putting a Senate jobs guarantee together, and then we can just piggyback from the House on that. Well, we start working on that, and what's gonna happen? There's going to be a handful, right? Tulsi Gabbard, hopefully Ro Khanna, people that are up there that are going to be right on board. We don't even have to second guess it. So they're waiting for us for backup. Then there's going to be the moderates who are, getting that money that you're talking about and are going to be a little weary. Now, we're going to have control of the House. We already know that. It's almost a given that, we would really have to have a sweeping defeat of moral compass for the entire nation for us not to take Congress, at least the House, back. Well, we're going to take both back. There's no doubt in my mind. So we have both houses. We just have to make sure that those middlemen and women are willing to play ball. Well, how do we do that? Claire McCaskill is starting to run scared. One of our candidates, Angelica Earl, is hoping to knock her out of her seat. And I just talked to my mom today, who lives in Missouri, and told her to get up off of her rump and start getting some people together to have some house parties so that we could get rid of Claire McCaskill. So we might end up getting rid of that one. But how do we fight people like Claire McCaskill when we're up there if we pretend that she's someone like her is up there? It's very simple. We don't let up. If we're dealing with a congressperson who won't sign on to her Medicare for All bill, then we tell them very simply, we have friends. We all have a lot of friends now. We've got so many friends that especially are sick of your inaction that we can call them and message them and send out a post on Facebook and Twitter and have them over in your office every day for the next week, picketing and making local news. Now, in the meantime, since you're up here being hard-headed, we'll go ahead and get some of our friends to do the same thing here and be outside your office, making sure that you understand that this is what's happening. And because you're all up for re-election in only 2 years, we're going to make sure that these people are constantly on you over this, because this is what the people want. And you say, well, that's not fair. People lobbying their politicians is just like corporations lobbying.
No, I love your strategy. Like everything,
right? It's no, because people are the ones supposed to be. The people are supposed to be lobbying their politicians.
Lobbying,
that's the key point.
Problem
not
is
a corporation
lobbying for profits in contracts in return. But lobbying for like civil rights as a politician,
that's like what we're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. That's like why you're there.
We've got media like you and real progressives who have big followings, and H.A. Goodman, and when we get in office, you guys are gonna be still our friends. You're gonna even be bigger friends, because hopefully we'll be able to start pushing the absolute necessity for independent media. Exactly. To where it's, and we'll have the federal jobs guarantee, so you can actually get a job in media in your local area if your community feels a need for independent media. Then you guys can certainly put together an independent media resource so that you could publish media and still make a living without going hungry doing it for free. Do you see where this federal jobs guarantee goes? It's endless. The possibilities are endless, and it's all run on a local level. I want to repeat that. It's not working for Big Brother. It's not big government. Big government only funds the resources so that the state and local municipalities have the capital to run the programs to fix their societies. Period. That's the only involvement. And kind of outlining it.
They send
kind of just outlining it for
up
people.
to the state to distribute the check, and then up to the districts to spend the check. That's what I'm understanding.
What'd you say?
So
what was the first part?
In the federal level, it's where the check is it's basically written. Then it's given to states. Then the states is distributed.
Nope. Nope. The check is written directly to you. It's like a Social Security check. It doesn't pass through the state for nothing. There's no reason for it. There's no reason to filter money through any other entity than the person who's getting paid. That's it. Why do we have to filter money and get more hands on it? Because that's what happens to our corrupt government. The program, because it's an endless fund, is only there meant to fund what the local municipalities or state, even, the state can have a committee and agree for like a state college or something and say, we'll invest in the materials to build it and donate the land. Now we'll use the federal jobs program. And they can use private contractors too, but use the federal jobs program to employ workers to start building and putting and erecting the material, because we need human resources to create the resources by which our society exists, right? Now, everything's going to be automated. Every house is going to be, in 30 years. Geez, would you back off of the automation?
Plus, hopefully not. Like, I'm really skeptical about that. I would absolutely never buy.
But by the time we reach that, we've already been stabilizing our society and bringing humans up to a higher education of thinking that full automation, we can finally move to a resource-based economy.
Yeah, hopefully. Right. Hopefully. I love that concept, by the way. Thanks for bringing that up.
There's nothing wrong with a resource-based economy if we can get rid of the political constraints. Because the only problem with a resource-based economy is the political restraints. That's why when we talk about a universal basic income and affordable housing, that does not fix the problem. Those are basic, band-aids for sociological issues. Because you start talking about splitting housing into 80-20 and giving low-income people houses at the same, or apartments at the same rate as people who are pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. And guess what you have? You create division in the society, which is what we have now. They don't deserve that. Why do they get that? And I got to work for mine. Yeah. Because, see, they're right, though. Why does that person have any right more to anything less? They don't. That's why we need to guarantee those things. You have a guarantee to a house, and it's a good house, a decent house, not living in the slums in a project where you're separated and segregated because of your income. That's prison. That is actually, we can get into the actual literal sociological ramifications of low-income housing and how they lead into the prison system and become a circulating door on another show. But that's an absolute reality of what happens. There's a definite correlation between lack of education, high crime, and low-income communities circulating back in and out of the prison system. That's right. And they want it that way.
Yeah, because the private lobbying, the private prison lobbying, obviously they want that.
And I want to make something clear. When I talk about that, I'm not talking about those people or those people here or how those people are, because those people are victims of a system that created that for them.
Yeah.
And so if people are engaging in crime, it's because they're victims of a society that's already let them down, because you don't learn that. I mean, you do that to survive. You do that because there's no opportunity or resources for you to be happy. Most people probably wouldn't want to be going around shooting and killing and robbing and stealing if they could, go to work and feel a little happy with what they enjoy doing. Everybody enjoys doing something. You think a drug dealer just enjoys standing on the corner dealing drugs? No. He's got interests. He's got things he wants to do, but he knows that he can make a lot more money doing that, and that the system, all they're going to do is chase him around the streets anyway. So until you change this whole culture about how we treat education, look at what we've done in the last 30 years. We keep picking away at education. The dumbing down of America, it's a real thing. If you haven't watched the movie, a lot of people don't watch movies anymore. Look up Idiocracy. It's a 2005 comedy that predicts this time that we're starting to get to, where millennials are deciding not to have kids because of the economy and the planet. And the people who are having kids are people who fall into the gaps of lower educated pockets of communities, because when you're bored and you ain't got nothing to do, what do you do? You know, you're not working, you're struggling to survive, you'll do drugs, sex, and I speak from experience, so I don't judge anybody. When I overcame alcoholism. I've had my run-ins with all kinds of different drugs in my early teens and early 20s, because I came out of that same kind of environment. I'm just one of the people who was fortunate enough to bounce around and get away from a pocket and not get trapped in a pocket. And, trust me, I am one of the very few that gets out of that kind of thing, but I still got pockets in my life, right? Like, I've been out of the workforce for 10 years running my businesses. And when my business is slow, I can't just go down and get a job. I can't go down to Charter Communication Spectrum, which I hate, and get a job, because they look at you like, well, where you been for 10 years? Well, I've been running my own businesses and it's been kind of slow, and now I'm looking for something steady. I'm 45 years old and I'm here for you. They're like, yeah, I think about 2 months from now, when your business picks up, you're going to be gone. So you're not a good candidate. I'm not a good candidate for hire. Statistics show that people who are working are the people who get hired. People who are not working are the last to get hired. Okay. So I fall into that category. Even though I have a business of my own, I've been unemployed. I've not been in the system like that.
Okay. So last thing that I want you to talk about, which I think to me is actually the most important, and that is CFAR and your your commitment. That's the right word. Your commitment to your constituents, and the fact that you are literally signing a contract that you will be loyal, basically. Like, that's so crazy.
Right, bro, that's right. Here's the way I look at that, right? I look at it kind of like an employment contract, an employment agreement. Some places you go to a job and they make you sign this agreement, and you got to be careful of them. But let's take it on its best scenario, where they say, we want to make sure in the first 6 months you're going to perform up to this, and after that we're going to give you an evaluation. A lot of places do that. Sometimes it's 60 days, whatever. And after an evaluation, we may give you a raise, we may give you a promotion. Maybe that's when your benefits kick in or whatever. So there's some sort of deadline on approval of a certain measure of your performance. So what I view CFAR as is I've committed, just like the other candidates have committed, to this list of items that we are going to make sure we're co-signed on, we're authors of, we're not just placating and saying, hey, I'm for universal health care. Just wait and elect me next time and we'll get it done. Because that's kind of what happens, right? They just keep pulling you off while they say they support this, just stringing you along, saying, well, he's the most progressive guy. He supports universal health care. What's he doing about it? So now we end up with this. I know people said I should be a comedian. So if politics don't work out, I'm going to try stand up and go to a
you can do that. I mean,
so what we end up having to look at here is with this CFAR is we're saying, okay, in 180 days, I'm going to have some foot or finger or signature and some push. I mean, I can't control everything that goes on in Congress, but you will know that I'm working for this, not just talking about it. And if I don't, on day 181, I'll be answering your questions wherever they come from, because the thing is, we're hoping to work on getting the CFAR candidate, and you can sign anytime, even after election. to get the constituents to sign, not necessarily sign, but maybe we'll create it on the website like an email list. And that's where you can update people when you've actually done something. But that's also where that's the list of people that are going to come after you. And if you don't, yeah. So, and then you can actually not publish their names or anything, but just maybe put a counter on how many people have signed, you know, and Johnny's got 5,000 people that are going to kick him in his rump on a 181 if he doesn't adhere to this. And I love that because I love sticking to my words. You know, in 2002, when I wrote the paper, Paradox of Progress in America, I'd met Paul Wellstone, and he got killed that year. And during his memorial, I heard them repeat the saying that he always used to say. And then I went online and looked it up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to live my life by that. And you see it on my Twitter. You see it on all of my stuff, because I actually started using it on everything in my signatures and trying to live my life by. Never separate the words you speak from the life you live.
Do that again.
That's it. Never separate the life you live from the words you speak. It's both ways. I get it mixed up sometimes, but it doesn't matter. Don't separate them. If you say it, do it. If you're speaking it, do it. And then that's how I stuck to my sobriety. People say, oh, you know, and that's how I started my businesses. I was working with these guys, and at work, I'd be talking about, I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I talk myself into it. So that's when you say you're going to do something to people, you better damn well stick to it. Otherwise, you're a fraud, you're a fake, you're a hypocrite, go away. When it comes to politics, you know, I mean, we all have people in our lives, they don't stick to what they say, and we know how that makes us feel. But when we're talking about being responsible for the decisions of a whole demographic of people, doesn't matter if it's state, local, or federal, you as a public servant have a responsibility to make sure you're not obfuscating your thinking and you're doing the right thing. And when you say to somebody you're going to do something, now you might make a mistake. You might say, hey, I stood for universal basic income until I started really meditating on and I started thinking about it. Now, that's not evolution. There's a big difference between evolution and cognitive learning, right? And opening yourself up to new information, because evolving means you're changing the core of who you are. For instance, I believe marriage is between a man and a woman to I believe in equal marriage rights. That's an evolutionary core change that Hillary made, we think, right? But when you're talking about the benefits of how to go about securing everyone's life, whether it's UBI or universal basic income or a federal jobs guarantee, then it just becomes a process of figuring out, again, as progressives, finding and implementing the best possible solution to improve the lives of everyone, right? Yeah. So if UBI really, really is, then I'll know, because I only adhere to what I always find to be the best truth when I finally get to it at that time. Now, I may find better truths as we go along, but I got to operate with the knowledge that I have. And if you can change my mind, I'm all open, you know, but I can guarantee you, just like the jobs guarantee, that I can kill the universal basic income debate, not on Twitter where people don't listen, but with anybody who wants to go up against me on a one-on-one debate. I will challenge them just succinctly. And it really only takes about 5 minutes to shut it down, to be honest with you. But if they want to have a longer discussion, we will.
All right. Well, we're nearing the end at this point. Any last thought you want to say?
Yeah, for you, I was going to tell you, man, you've been at this, and I appreciate, you know, God, you've been following me, you know, in the dark for a year almost. And I appreciate you reaching back out. And I wanted to encourage you. You mentioned CFAR, and you know of Real Progressives. I would encourage you to connect with them. And if you don't have, you know, Victor Tiffany, you know Victor Tiffany, you know Joe Firestone. you know, I want to see you guys, because you guys are our voice too. You give us the platform to get our message out. Without you guys, man, the mainstream media is not doing us any favors, just like, you know, they always do. So I want to also see you guys flourish and build and reach out and be able to suggest candidates to each other, kind of like that, so that your shows can become more popularized, because you're actually giving the voice to the people that are sick of mainstream media. They don't want to hear it. And it's just very important what you guys are doing. And I want you to know that I appreciate that. You know, I honestly do. I know you're blushing now. You know, I got you.
So actually, let's close with one of that quote that you told me when we met that I thought was really powerful. And remember that was?
I spout a lot of stuff out of here, man.
Okay, it's the one about not speaking truth to power, but
oh, right. My motto on my giving power to truth.
Exactly.
I don't know what it means to speak truth to power, because that's just some kind of arbitrary thought. But I know what it means to give power to the truth. And when we know what the truth is, we know black men are being killed on the streets by cops for no reason. The cops are getting away with it. That's the truth. We need to give power to that truth and then find the solution. Not just talk about it, not just chant about it, not have protests about it and hashtag about it. We need to find the solutions to change it.
Exactly. And actually, that one issue, I think we need to pull together the head of the police department and whoever is in charge of that, and bring them together with the local community, the heads of Black Lives Matter, and bring. I've actually worked on this in Sarasota with some people that have. I mean, we've been working on this. That we're running for actually a whole election that I was working on for mayor before. But basically, that was our method. We were trying to bring together the police department with the leadership of Black Lives Matter and the community, each other. And then when we see each other's faces at the same place, that starts something.
Exactly. Just like, you know, the removing the human element away from war through drones and stuff like that makes it easy to kill them. You know, it makes it easier to detach when you're not face to face with people.
Drops a bomb. Yeah, it makes it just like a game, basically. You're killing people.
Exactly. And that goes back again to the federal jobs guarantee, because let me put this, the police problem is a local issue as far as the solution is local, right? Because the community needs to address those people right there. You don't have a blanket from the federal government just to come. You are the ones that know who those bad cops are and where these things are happening. Where the federal jobs guarantee and the government comes in is making sure your community has the resource to address the inhumanity and the violation of human rights. That's what it's about. So that's where it's about.
Thank you so much.
Don't get me pumped up for another hour, man. You got to go.
No, another time we'll definitely do it. All right, so just last reminder for people watching. So Johnny Akzam running for Congress in Minnesota's 1st district. Thank you so much for being here, and hope we'll have you again soon.
Obviously, yep. Thanks, man.
All right, stay in touch. And actually, by the way, everyone who's interested in learning more about him, all his information, social media, everything is down in the description. And thanks everyone for watching. We'll have a series of interviews coming up, and hopefully Akzam also again. So thank you for watching, and thank you for coming. I'll see you soon.